Good time of day, guys! My name is Godzi, and welcome back to another episode of Saya no Uta. Last episode, Fuminori pushed Koji into a well to leave him condemned to death. How fun! And then afterward, Fuminori and Saya went to PetSmart and stole some animals illegally, and by that I mean they enslaved Yo as a sex slave. How fun! Totally great, totally amazing. Anyways, yeah, I'm guessing we're in Koji's perspective now, who's definitely gonna get help. I feel like, okay, there was one thing that I will point out that I didn't really like from last episode. I think overall this game has been pretty good, pretty well written, not perfect, but pretty up there, pretty damn competent. But that one line from Fuminori where he was just like, oh, I'm so glad it was Yo that he called and not like, you know, a third party to come and help him, because that would be bad. Not knowing that that's exactly what he did. I just feel like it's a little cheesy. Like if he had just stopped at like, I'm glad it was only Yo that he called, and that was it, then that would be fine. But I don't know, just mentioning, thank God it wasn't a third party, that's just, I don't know, it's cheesy. But oh well, he's gonna get saved by that third party because, I don't know, the writing made it a little predictable. And let's read. He has been buried alive. His world is the silence and cold of the grave. Ever since his voice gave out and he lost his strength to scream, no coherent thought has passed through Koji's mind. Perhaps this is his brain's way of protecting him from despair. Instead, he dreams. Images flash before his eyes. Random, unconnected scenes from his 20 years of life. Not all are of happy times. There are sad, painful memories as well. But even these are pleasantly warm compared to the death that is now encroaching upon him. He dreams of mountains. His older brother once took him hunting for insects when he was a child. They sealed their caught butterflies in a plastic bag, only to later find themselves holding a bag of tiny corpses. Good job. He dreams of his lover. They met him at a mixer, where he'd been the only one to realize that she couldn't hold her liquor. After she'd had too much to drink, he looked after her while she vomited in the back alley. They toasted each other with canned juice, and then he dreams that he is diving into a black sea. When he reaches the bottom, he looks up to see the moon shining through the surface of the water. As he gazes up at the circle of light, entranced by its roundness and brilliance, the distant rumbling of an engine reaches his ears. Something still conscious within him tells him that this dream is wrong. Have I ever gone diving at night before? The dots begin to connect in his mind, forming a barrier to separate his dreams from reality. What is bothering him? Of course, the sound. The engine noise gradually fades into a low idling, then abruptly gives way to silence, followed by the sound of a door opening and closing. Yay! It's probably Tanbo, right? Haha. Not predictable at all. Haha. Anyways, this isn't a dream. These sounds are real. Understanding comes like a sudden blow. This isn't the bottom of the sea, and that circle of light isn't the moon. It's the mouth of the well. The sun has already risen, and someone is right outside with a car. The last piece falls into place, and he becomes Tono Koji once more. Help! Koji shouts, surprised by how easily his voice emerges. His desperation blocks out the pain of his raw throat. Hey! I'm down here in the well! Help me! He keeps screaming with all of his might. Soon, the echoes in the cramped well become deafening, and he is no longer certain if his screams have meaning or if he is just howling wordlessly. Nevertheless, he continues. His only desire is to be heard, lest he die forgotten at the bottom of this well. Koji's wait is not long, but even a minute feels like eternity on the edge of despair. Soon, the circle of light above him is partially eclipsed by the silhouette of a person staring down into the well. Probably Tanbo. Tono, you alive down there? A woman's voice. Koji has heard it somewhere before, but for some reason cannot remember to whom it belongs. Just hold on, I'll get you out. The silhouette vanishes, restoring the light to a perfect circle. Fear of being left alone again threatens to send Koji into a panic, but his reason is recovered enough to resist. She said she's going to get me out. I haven't been abandoned. While waiting, he gingerly tests his body, which he had forgotten all about until now. His joints ache, and his fingers and toes are numb, but though exhausted, he's still in one piece. After some time, the silhouette reappears at the top of the well. Are you hurt? Can you climb a rope on your own? No, I don't think so. Koji lacks the confidence to attempt such a feat. His frozen fingers can barely move. Oh well, I'm coming down. Okay. After a brief pause, the owner of the voice tosses a knotted climbing rope into the well. He grabs the rope as soon as it reaches him. The rough threads bite into his palm, and relief nearly overwhelms him at the sensation. This is really happening. He's really safe. Why did she just have a rope? Like, whatever. Now that he's free from despair, questions leap to the forefront of his mind. First among them, who is his savior? The rope shakes as the woman climbs carefully down. The beam from the floodlight swung over her shoulder, pushing back the shadow cast by her body. Soon she is standing in the same mud as Koji, and he finds himself face to face with... Doctor?! Figured. Were you expecting someone else? Koji indeed had not imagined that his savior would turn out to be Dr. Tanbo Ryoko. Of course, I knew that, because she's the only living character left in the game who's a human who would help Koji, potentially. So, Of course, it took him a moment to recognize her. Instead of a white gown and tight skirt, she's wearing a heavy leather coat, denim jeans, and boots with no heel. She must have expected a hike through the mountains. Her light is a blocky, all-purpose type featuring side-mounted fluorescent runners in addition to the main floodlight. Survival gear and professional grade by the look of it. You look awful, Dr. Tanbo says wryly as she gives Koji a once-over. Here, drink this. She pulls a flask out of her pocket and hands it to him. Go slow, take small sips. It should help a little. Thank you. She walks around without a flask? No, she walks around with a flask. Maybe Koji's just old-fashioned, but it doesn't seem appropriate for a young woman, and a doctor at that. So then there's something more to her, huh? Nevertheless, he unscrews the cap and takes a swig, and struggles to keep from coughing as the potent liquid sears his tongue. What is this? Spiritus vodka. Good for disinfecting wounds in a pinch, and also does a fine job of setting things on fire. Her tone is straightforward and quite serious. Koji can only gape at the doctor, the dark smile on her face doing little to ease his confusion. Is this really Dr. Tanbo? There's no trace of the bookish, mild-mannered woman Koji met at the hospital. Her expression is now set in a hard mask, and her eyes are sharp and wary. In the darkness at the bottom of the well, it is possible, however unlikely, that the change in her features is due to the ominous shadows cast by her lamp. It's not so easy, however, to explain the change in her demeanor. Why are you here? You called me, didn't you? Ryoko replies brusquely, glaring at Koji like an annoyed professor. I tried calling back, but you didn't answer. Neither did your friend Tsukuba. Am I supposed to think everything's fine? No, but... Koji still doesn't understand why she acted so quickly, but it's a different part of what she just said that seizes his attention. Wait, Tsukuba? You called her too? Like I said, she didn't pick up either. To be honest, I figured you were both dead already. That's right. He almost died, and at the hands of the man he thought was his best friend. Anger and frustration well up inside of him. He can't forgive Fuminori's betrayal, nor can he forgive himself for his foolishness. And now he has no idea if Tsukuba is safe. Fuminori tried to kill Koji. Could he have done the same to her? Calm down, why don't you? Ryoko says irritably, turning away to examine the inside of the well. There's nothing you can do from here. If you thought something was wrong, Koji says to her back, then you must have called the police, right? The police? Still engrossed in her examination of the walls, Ryoko laughs scornfully at the idea. So you still think that's the way out, do you? Have you not been paying attention to the news? Those fuckers are mad incompetent. We're in Japan. I know, but whatever. What's that supposed to mean? Annoyed by her condescending attitude, Koji is about to demand answers when she cuts him off with a gesture and shines her light at a corner of the well. You didn't notice this? Huh? In the light of the lamp, Koji sees that some of the stones are a different shade than the rest of the wall. This must be what Ryoko was looking for, a hidden passage? Huh. No, there wasn't enough light. Ryoko's gaze moves slowly along the wall, finally coming to rest on a gap between two of the stones. The hole is just wide enough for an adult to reach into open-handed. You sure picked the right well to fall down, Ryoko says with a grim smile. Like they say, it's always the last place you look. She wastes no time thrusting her hand into the opening. After she feels around for a few seconds, Koji hears the thunk of something solid coming together behind the wall. Doctor? Ryoko pulls her hand out and gives the different colored stones a gentle push. With the rumble of weights shifting, the stone slides smoothly back into the wall. So that's how he fooled me. I had no idea this was here the last time I came. Oh, okay. You've been here before? Koji wants answers, but Ryoko ignores him and peers into the opening. In the beam of her floodlight, Koji can see a concrete tunnel leading into the mountain. I'm going on ahead. You'd better stay here. Her warning is utterly devoid of warmth. Considering his options, Koji looks from the tunnel to the rope and back again. He's practically sweating now, thanks to the 190 proof vodka he just drank, but although feeling has returned to his fingers, he still doesn't have the strength to climb. That said, the thought of being alone in the well again makes him shiver. I'll go too. Please take me with you. Have it your way. Ryoko steps into the tunnel without looking back, and Koji doesn't hesitate to follow. You were pretty different the last time we met, Koji says sarcastically, following Ryoko as she moves cautiously down the tunnel with her light leading the way. This isn't the hospital, and you're not my patient. The service doesn't come with a smile. So this is who you really are? I wonder, does it matter? Ryoko suddenly stops and stares at the floor. When Koji looks over her shoulder, he sees a dust-covered rope lying coiled up in the middle of the path. What is it? Something left by the last guy who came down that well. Ryoko picks up the rope, examines it, and hands it to Koji. It's about twice as long as my rope. It has a knot in it and both ends have been severed. They were connected before to make a circle. Huh? You loop one end of the circle around something topside, then use the rest to climb down into the well. When you're at the bottom, you cut the circle open and pull the whole rope in with you. That way, there's nothing to show where you went. Ryoko shines her light down the tunnel, revealing that it ends in a closed wooden door about 10 meters ahead. That's how he avoided detection. Really got me good. You said you've been here before? Yeah, you and Sakisaka aren't the only ones, Ryoko says dryly. I checked Ogai's cabin a while back. Oh shit. As Ryoko speaks, she opens her coat and pulls out what she had hanging underneath it. If there aren't any other exits, then he's still behind that door. At first, Koji thinks that she is holding a steel pipe. Amazed that she would be carrying a weapon, Koji looks closer and is appalled when he realizes what it really is. A gun! And not one of those sleek handguns that he's seen in the movies, but a double-barreled shotgun. The stock and barrels have been sawed down for easier concealment, enhancing its aura of brutal efficiency. What is that? A 12 gauge, Ryoko replies blandly, as though naming a brand of cigarettes. I don't have a permit, and cutting it down would be illegal even if I did. Any other questions? What are you planning to do with that thing? Ryoko looks over her shoulder and gives Koji her most chilling smile yet. Oh shit, we got a new Mineko sprite. Gun! When I first learned what Ogai was doing, I was a model citizen. Never even gotten a ticket. The woman whom Koji believed was just a normal doctor waves her sawed-off shotgun menacingly as she continues, her tone sharp and bitter. If I'd had this back then, I could have killed Ogai before he got away. Maybe then, none of this would have happened. I feel bad about that, really. Koji listens in silence, helpless to do anything but watch as understanding moves farther and farther out of his grasp. In other words, everything I do from here on out is to clean up this mess that you and your friends have stepped in. Remember that, and don't ask any unnecessary questions. Got it? Koji can only nod weakly in response. With the light in her left hand and the shotgun in her right, Ryoko walks up to the door and takes a deep breath. Then she kicks the door open, putting her full weight behind the blow. With a disappointingly feeble sound, the door breaks off of its hinges and falls into the room. Dust billows like white smoke in the beam of Ryoko's light. The room is large, at least 35 meters square. The tiled floor is set with drainage grates, and there's no mistaking the operating table sitting in the middle of the room. Cabinets full of enamelware and drugs line one side of the space, and against the opposite wall stand a writing desk and bookshelves. Those things, Koji recognizes. The mysterious objects cluttering the tables and shelves, however, are beyond his comprehension. Mirrors delicately engraved with complex patterns, grotesque statues and masks that must have been left by a race of savages, tapestries woven in nauseating arrays of color, a crystal ball the size of an infant's head. Any would fetch a hefty price at an antique store, if not for the one thing they all have in common. Every last piece is so loathsome and foul that Koji feels sick just looking at it. It's as though each was designed for the sole sinister purpose of immortalizing its creator's hatred of the world. Rare-looking books of the sort that he found in Ogai's home are piled here and there, and on one shelf are stacked some scrolls that look to be made of some kind of sheepskin or papyrus. Whatever it is, it's not paper. Finally, there are the indecipherable chalk patterns and symbols filling every available space on the walls. Even the two sliding blackboards are covered in strange, unreadable scribblings. Just looking at them is making Koji dizzy. Don't look! Ryoko snaps at him. Listen, don't move. And whatever you do, don't touch anything. Even if something draws your attention, don't look at it. If you see something that feels wrong, stare at your shoes. Got it? Yeah. Ryoko switches her light's fluorescent runners on and sets it on a nearby table where it can illuminate the whole room. She then holsters her shotgun, only to pull out an even more confusing set of tools. A digital camera and a can of spray paint. Okay. She gives the can in her left hand a good shake, switches the camera in her right hand on, and steps up to the blackboard while looking at the camera's side-mounted screen. After recording one set of symbols, she covers it with a thick layer of paint, then moves on to the next. Okay. Doctor? Lesson 1. Never look at strange symbols or read anything written in unusual languages like Latin. Okay. Use a camera to record them for later, then paint over the original. Now that she mentions it, Koji realizes that she's only looking at the screen of her camera. Even then, only in short glimpses, and never directly at any of the drawings. He understands what she's saying, but it still doesn't make any sense. Why do you have to? Now that you've come this far, you'd better shut up and listen for your own good. Things like crystal balls and mirrors are dangerous. Anything can happen if you break them, so it's best to cover them with a cloth or paint over them for the time being. Koji begins to fear that this doctor might be even crazier than Fuminori. Despite the burst of energy he received from the vodka, Koji is still exhausted from his night in the well. The fear is affecting his body, making him dizzy and nauseous. Soon the walls are covered in black paint and the stale air is thick with the smell of turpentine. That should do for now, Ryoko says with relief, then tosses the empty can aside and puts away her video camera. What happened to Ogai? Koji asked, supporting himself against a nearby table. Oh, he was over there. Without stopping her examination of the papers on the writing table, Ryoko points nonchalantly to a Chinese-style screen standing in one corner of the room. He was there. Her clinical choice of tense makes her meaning instantly obvious. The urge to see for himself is irresistible. Koji staggers across the room to the screen, taking the utmost care not to look at the scaly octopus thing that is painted on it. Behind the screen is a large easy chair. Although he's never met the man before, Koji is fairly certain that the person sitting in it is Ogai Masahiko. And he's dead! Great. Ogai's corpse must have shrunk significantly while drying in this sealed chamber. The body is barely the size of a child's, with only the business suit hanging from the bones offering any hint of Ogai's former stature. His empty eye sockets and wide-open jaw are filled with darkness, the same darkness that surrounded Koji at the bottom of the well. Compared to those gaping voids, the tiny hole in Ogai's right temple is almost a mirror. The revolver that he presumably used to kill himself is still clenched in his dangling right hand. It looks like a child's toy compared to Ryoko's shotgun. Ryoko must have noticed Ogai's corpse while she was spray painting the walls, and still she kept working without batting an eyelash. Impressive, though not exactly surprising after what he's been through. It's getting difficult to remember the last time he spoke to someone sane. But if not for her, Koji reminds himself with a bitter smirk, he would have ended up joining this mummified corpse here, and no one would have ever found him. Koji's vision suddenly dims. He's pushed himself too hard, and the spiritus vodka can't help him anymore. He collapses to the floor, unable to hang on to his slipping consciousness, and the last thing he sees are Ogai Masahiko's gaping eye sockets staring at him. Okay. When he wakes, Koji finds himself on something dry and soft. A bed is a bed, he thinks to himself, even one that smells of mold and dust, and especially after sleeping in cold mud all night. There are no lights hanging from the ceiling, but the soft, warm light of a lamp fills the room. Simple furnishings, non-existent decor. Koji realizes that he's in Ogai's cabin, in the bedroom that he searched before Fuminori pushed him into the well. You awake? Ryoko is sitting in a chair against the wall, her expression blank as she studies the pile of documents on the table in front of her. She must have brought them up from Ogai's underground lab. She turns a page, then takes a bite from the sandwich in her free hand. If you feel up to eating, there's food over there. Without looking up from the files, she gestures towards the convenience store bag sitting on the nightstand. How did I get here? Koji can't imagine that a woman, even a woman like Ryoko, could have climbed out of the well with him on her back. There was a door behind one of the bookshelves down there, Ryoko muttered, taking care not to let the explanation interfere with her reading or eating. When I finally got it open, it led to the boiler room underneath the cabin. The other side was hidden with a thin layer of mortar. I figured that's how he got most of his supplies down there. Once he had everything he needed, he could seal it up and use the well instead. Pretty thorough. Was there really something in there that he needed to hide? There used to be. This is the last of it. Having finished her sandwich, Ryoko picks up some unsorted papers with her free hand and waves them in the air. Not all scholars want to get on stage at a symposium and show their research to the world, you know. Some nutcases get their kicks by learning secrets no one else knows, and by being buried with those secrets in hidden tombs that no one will ever find. Koji still hasn't the slightest idea what Ogai's secret might have been. From what Ryoko said in that tunnel, however, he can guess that Fuminori is somehow involved. What happened to Fuminori? Koji asks desperately, no longer caring who he gets answers from. What does he have to do with that body down there? Just what is it that you're after? That's what I'm trying to find out, Ryoko replies coldly, as though Koji's concerns are none of hers. Sakisaka told me that he was acting on behalf of one of Ogai's relatives. Yes, he told me the same thing. Oh? Well, at least that's consistent. Ryoko pulls several sheets of loose-leaf paper from a different file. The truth is that Ogai has no relatives. I thought that Sakisaka was simply lying. However, there was another possibility I should have considered. He might have been tricked by someone claiming to be Ogai's family. Ryoko pauses, then looks sidelong at Koji. Does the name Saya ring a bell? Saya? No, who is that? Who, or what, is the question. But the more I read, the less I understand. She sighs bitterly, then returns her attention to the papers in her hand. All I can say for sure is that it appears to have been the focus of Ogai's research. If Sakisaka is involved with whatever Saya is, then he's already past the point of no return. The icy certainty in Ryoko's voice sends a chill down Koji's spine. If so, then what will you do? He has to ask, even though he already knows the answer. It's like I said, Ryoko replies, smirking at the tension in Koji's voice. I have no idea how many times I've wished I'd killed Ogai when I had the chance. I won't make the same mistake twice. If I go to the police, it'll all be over! Ryoko doesn't respond, as though she didn't even hear what Koji just said. Fuminori tried to kill me, Koji continues persistently. If I report him, he'll be arrested and... Ryoko cuts him off harshly. You have witnesses? Proof? What was Sakisaka's motive? You know, Tono, you're completely misunderstanding what the police do. Their job isn't to fight for justice or even to keep people safe. Based fucking Ryoko. What are you saying? Finding reasonable explanations for unreasonable events. That's what the police are for. No, wrong, fuck. She lost me. They will always choose to believe the simplest, most logical explanation. Just like how water always flows downhill. They aren't interested in the truth. They don't know or care that the truth is often stranger than fiction. They can't all be like that! I won't know until I try! Exactly, Ryoko states as she pulls another sandwich out of the bag. That's the problem. She hasn't spared Koji a second glance since looking at him earlier. Even while talking, her attention is always focused on the papers in front of her. Let's say you accuse your friend of pushing you into a well. In addition to your statement, the police will consider two alternate versions of the truth. Maybe you're making it all up to frame your friend. Or, even simpler, it was an accident. You fell into the well by yourself, and the shock has made you paranoid or delusional. So basically, she's saying the police are lazy. Okay, got it. That's fine, then. These three possibilities will compete to see which comes out with the most convincing evidence. No one knows which will be the winner. Are you willing to bet everything... Oh wait, she's still talking. These three possibilities will compete to see which comes out with the most convincing evidence. No one knows which will be the winner. Are you willing to bet everything you have on your truth? Koji has no response. Can he really explain with cold, clear logic what drove Fuminori to do what he did? How can he convince anyone else when he doesn't even understand it himself? And here's the biggest problem, Ryoko says calmly, cutting into Koji's thoughts. While you're raising hell with the police, we'll lose our chance to corner Sakisaka. If he sees trouble coming, he'll go into hiding, and then we'll be right back at square one. She pauses to take a bite of her sandwich before finishing. Just like when I let Ogai get away. A heavy silence falls upon them, with only the soft rustle of pages turning in Ryoko's hands to mark the passage of time. Please tell me, Doctor, Koji says, his hushed voice breaking through the quiet. What crime is so unforgivable that you're determined to take justice into your own hands? What exactly did Ogai do in that room down there? Once again, Ryoko ignores Koji's question. This time, however, Koji doesn't back down. His silent glare demands her attention as she pours through the documents before her. After some time, Ryoko rearranges the papers in her hands and sets them aside, as though having come to some conclusion. She then turns her chair to face Koji for the first time since he awoke. Listen, Tono. Her hard stare belies the calmness of her voice. You need to get out of this while you still can. There are a lot of fine hot springs around here. Go relax and don't return to Tokyo until you're ready to forget any of this ever happened. Forget? Koji feels anger rise within him. Omi was my girlfriend. Fuminori was my best friend. And you're telling me to forget about them? Yeah, forget about them, Ryoko replies, coolly rebuffing Koji's anger. This isn't a suggestion, it's a warning. Whatever they were to you, that's all over now. You'll never see them again, I guarantee it. Then what about Tsukuba? Koji shouts, unable to control himself. She begged me for help on the phone! Something terrible was happening to her! And how many hours ago was that? Do you know how much time has passed since I saved you? How much longer do you think you would have lasted down there if I hadn't? She shakes her head, then declares coldly, It's too late. She's already dead. Don't expect everyone to be as lucky as you. You are heartless! Koji growls, unable to suppress his anger. If you'd found me dead in that well, you wouldn't have thought anything of it, would you? I was prepared for that, of course, Ryoko says with a shrug, unfazed by Koji's ire. I hardly expected to find you alive. It is futile to argue with this woman, Koji realizes. Her values are fundamentally different from his own. Nothing he can say will ever move her. Koji gets out of bed and stands on shaky legs. How long have I been asleep? About half a day. I envy your ability to recover so quickly. It's a privilege of youth, so enjoy it while it lasts. Koji looks at his watch and sees that it's 4 in the morning, which means that it was already early evening when Ryoko rescued him. He can't believe that he survived in that well for almost 2 days. Now that the gaps in his memory have been filled and his sense of time has returned, he realizes that it's already Sunday morning. Ryoko's right. A lot of time has passed since he spoke to Yo on the phone. Koji grabs a sports drink and 2 jelly packs from the bag of food that Ryoko brought, then heads for the door. His legs are still a little unsteady, but he can compensate for that with sheer willpower. Just to make sure, mind telling me where you're going? Tokyo. Oh wait, fuck. Other way around. Just to make sure, mind telling me where you're going? Tokyo, Koji replies brusquely, his tone as hard as hers. Tsukuba might still be alive. I'm going to save her. You just don't listen, do you? I could say the same about you. Koji is expecting Ryoko to watch him go with that cold, mocking smile of hers. Instead, however, she sighs heavily and rests her jaw in her hands. Can't you wait a little longer? Somewhere in here. She thrusts her chin at the mountain of papers in front of her. It's the answer to what this thing called Saya is. I think you should wait until I figure that out and come up with a plan to deal with it. You would think that, since you're already convinced that Tsukuba is dead. In truth, Koji is extremely uneasy about going it alone. At the same time, however, he knows that he mustn't depend on Ryoko. She's made it clear that she doesn't care about saving lives. Teaming up with her will only make it more difficult to salvage anything out of this nightmare. Tono, Ryoko calls just before Koji steps out the door. You almost got killed once already. Don't let it happen again. She picks something up from the table and tosses it to Koji. When Koji catches it, he feels its solid weight fill his hand. Ah, a revolver. This is... Koji stares at the menacing shape of cold metal. It's a revolver, the same one that was clenched in Ogai's skeletal fist. It has 4 more shots. There's no safety, so just pull the trigger to fire. How you use it is up to you. If Koji were his usual cautious self, he would not hesitate to reject the dangerous offering. The only time you truly need a gun is when all hope is lost. He'd prefer not to fight a losing war. And yet, without even knowing it, Koji has already set foot into Ryoko's world. Choosing instinct over reason, he accepts the small but deadly weapon and stuffs it into his pocket. There is no question that Koji intends to save Yo and bring Fuminori to answer for his crimes. In the back of his mind, however, he can hear the footsteps of ruin approaching. Ooh. Okay, still in his perspective. What, is he just the protagonist now? Is it just like, yeah, you thought I was a side character? Haha, bitch, I was the main character the whole time. Ha, fuck, okay. Shit, this is a lot of pressure being the protagonist and all. Oh my god. When he steps out of the cabin's front door, Koji shivers as the wind tears into his skin. To his surprise, the outside air is even colder than the mud at the bottom of the well. Perhaps the cramped space mitigated the cold somewhat. If he had been exposed to this chill all night long, he would surely have frozen to death. Koji finds 2 cars parked in the yard. The smaller car next to his must be Ryoko's. When he sits behind the wheel of his car, he gets some relief from the feeling that he has taken the first step, however small, back into his world. He sips the sports drink, wetting his parched throat, then washes down some jelly. His stomach rebels at the sudden influx of food after 36 hours on empty, but he manages to force down the urge to vomit. Koji needs the energy. No matter how hard it is, he must regain enough stamina to overcome the challenges ahead. After forcing down as much food as he can handle, Koji leans back in his seat and takes a short break. When he begins to feel like himself again, he reaches into the back seat and pulls his spare cell phone out of his bag. He never expected that carrying 2 phones would be such a stroke of luck. As he calls up Fuminori's number and prepares to hit send, Koji is overcome by a flood of emotion. Rage, despair, sorrow, pity. He is unable to decide what to feel toward his friend. However, there is no time to dwell on the past. Every second lost diminishes the chance of saving Omi and Yo. Koji refuses to consider that it may already be too late. He steels himself and presses the button, then holds the phone to his ear as it rings. The shrill sound seems to go on for longer than it ever has in his life. Right now, Fuminori's phone must be displaying the name of the caller. Koji wonders what his reaction will be when he sees it. The call goes through. In the silence on the other end of the phone, Koji senses surprise, apprehension, and dark fury. Feeling slightly gratified, Koji delivers the first jab. What? Weren't expecting a call from a dead man? I'm surprised. How did you manage it? As Koji is about to answer, an idea suddenly comes to him. There was a secret passage in the well, Koji says, a plan forming rapidly in his mind. It led to a hidden underground lab. He pauses to let that sink in. Then, with satisfaction filling his voice, he says, I met Ogai Masahiko. Fuminori's gasp tells Koji that the advantage is his. Keeping his voice bold, he decides to further exaggerate the truth. I know it all. Everything about Saya. You're finished, Fuminori. I've got all the proof I need to blow this thing wide open. You won't even see it coming. You son of a bitch. It's obvious from Fuminori's tone that rage has overwhelmed his reason. Koji's bluff is working perfectly. His victory is tainted, however, as Fuminori's response to the name Saya brings a cry of anguish from the corner of his heart that still wants to believe his friend can be saved. If Sakisaka is involved with whatever Saya is, Ryoko's words play back in his head, sounding even colder than before. Then he's already past the point of no return. He mustn't allow emotion to sway him. Where are Omi and Yo? Koji suddenly switches topics, trying to keep Fuminori off balance. It all comes down to this. Depending on your answer, I might be willing to cut you a deal. If you swear not to cause any more harm, I'll forget about what you did to me and about what I found at the cabin. I don't want anything more to do with you and Saya anyway. All I want is for Omi and Yo to be safe. Omi and Yo? Fuminori's voice trails off. He's obviously trying to decide how far Koji can be trusted, and whether there's room for negotiation. Fuminori has been called out, and now it's time for him to show his hand. I honestly don't know anything about Omi. She never came by my house. Yo, on the other hand... Fuminori pauses, then gives a knowing chuckle that sends chills up Koji's spine. Well, I wonder if she'll really want to leave. She's with you, isn't she? Koji is relieved to learn Yo's location and that she is, at least, still alive. At the same time, however, he remembers that horrifying phone call. It is clear now that Fuminori played some part in Yo's suffering. Had she already fallen into his trap back then? What has happened to her? How is she being treated? Her wish has finally come true, Fuminori says with venomous sarcasm. She's my property now. I guess you and Omi got what you wanted after all. Koji feels despair settle over his soul. How much lower will this man go? Must Fuminori seek out and destroy every memory of the friendship they once shared? Let Tsukuba go. When I'm sure she's safe, I'll destroy everything I have on you and Saya. How can I trust you? First, I want you to... I'm not giving you a choice here, Fuminori. Koji instinctively realizes that it's dangerous to push his bluff any further. I'll call again later. You have until then to make up your mind. He hangs up without waiting for a response. Fuminori doesn't know that Koji is still at the cabin in Tochigi. Right now, he's probably worrying about whether Koji will show up in 1 hour or 1 minute. Koji hopes that he'll be able to take advantage of Fuminori's confusion. 3 hours. That's how long it will take to race all the way back to Tokyo. Koji is afraid that his body won't carry him through such a long drive. His mind is clear, but his limbs still feel half asleep, like they're weighted down with lead. Although he knows that he has to stay resolute, Koji still longs for the peace he had just a few days ago, when life or death struggles were the furthest thing from his mind. Back then, he could never have imagined himself fighting to rescue a friend from the clutches of a madman. With each passing moment, he feels himself becoming less like the person he was. When all of this is over, will he be able to return to his old life? Or will this change continue until it has consumed him utterly? Time is against him. Every second that passes is wasted. Even so, he decides to allow himself just 5 minutes of weakness. For exactly 5 minutes, he leans against the steering wheel and cries. And when his tears have run dry and his heart is calm, Koji starts up his car and drives away. Okay, back to Fuminori. That stupid bitch, thinking he's the protagonist. No, that's me, bitch! I stare at the silent phone in my hand. There is anger, of course, but something cold and heavy holds my emotions in check. The sense of danger. To be honest, I'm surprised at how calm I am. Fuck's sake. Okay. So, Tsukuba's on screen again. Yay. Yeah. She's saying, Master. Yo looks up at me apprehensively, her head between my thighs. She was attending to my manhood throughout the call. Okay. Perhaps mistaking my silence for annoyance, she desperately rubs her breast against my shaft and attacks the head of my penis with her tongue. The remaining fragments of her memory seem to have joined together, and she has regained some degree of speech. Upon realizing this last night, Saya began to teach her language once more. I assume she finds our pet's efforts amusing. Don't be mad, Yo will try harder. I don't know how to voice her right now. Still gazing up at me pleadingly, Yo sucks on my penis without even taking the time to breathe. Her ministrations threaten to fill my head with a white fog of pleasure that would impede my thoughts. And besides, my arousal has already vanished. At first, I consider making her stop. When I gaze into her puppy dog eyes, however, I begin to think differently. Thanks to Saya, I have a family once again. For the first time, I am becoming aware of the responsibility that places on me. I am now the head of a new Sakisaka household, as well as its only male member. It is my duty to protect, comfort, and ensure the happiness of the women living under my roof. Okay, dude. With that in mind, I know that I mustn't show fear or confusion. That would only cause some distress. Continue. Yes, master. I entrust my manhood to Yo's ripe breasts, basking in the pleasure with one part of my mind while contemplating her current predicament with the other. It is clear that I made a grave error when I failed to finish Koji off 2 days ago. Right now, I need to set my frustration and anger aside and deal with this problem logically. It's time to leave. I have no way of knowing when Koji escaped from the well, or how much he has learned, or how many people he has had contact with since then. Now that it is impossible to know how far the problem has spread, merely disposing of Koji won't guarantee our safety. When the enemy has poisoned your water supply, you can't take the risk that even one drop might remain. Your only choice is to stop drinking the water. Okay? Fuminori, who were you talking to? Saya returns from the kitchen, where she'd gone in search of a midnight snack. She's munching on her favorite, spare ribs. How do you know they're spare ribs? Purging myself of unease and impatience, I respond with a casual shrug. Looks like we have a little problem. That bastard Koji is still alive. Oh dear. By breaking the news suddenly and without any trace of anxiety, I am able to avoid frightening Saya. Instead, she is merely surprised. I knew that remaining calm would work. Moreover, I'm currently getting my penis sucked by Yo. Sorry, I'm busy. I'm getting my dick sucked. It would be hard for anyone to get too serious under these circumstances. Saya, it might be best if we leave this house. Saya lowers her eyes and strokes her chin thoughtfully. This was bound to happen sooner or later. Even without Koji, it's only a matter of time before someone reports the Suzumi family missing. Yeah, Saya nods. I can tell that she's reluctant to leave, but at least there is no sadness in her expression. Everything will be fine. I will protect my life with Saya just as I have up until now. I have that power. Knowing that we've overcome one problem fills me with new confidence. By the way, Saya, I'm almost... Huh? Wait! Okay, for fuck's sake. Saya hastily discards her spare ribs and pushes the still-sucking Yo off of me. Ah! Fuminori, you're never this hard when you make love to me. Oh, well, okay. And we're back to bullshit. Despite her scolding tone, Saya gently and passionately wraps her mouth around my manhood. Lick, kiss, suck. With my orgasm already charged up by Yo, Saya's ravenous tongue and throat pushed me over the edge instantly. Saya, Come on, give me your... Before Saya finishes, I thrust deep into her throat and unleash my lust as I stare into her eyes wide with surprise. Gulp, gulp. Even while moaning around my penis, Saya grabs me firmly by the waist and swallows all of my seed without choking. Can you stop saying seed? For fuck's sake. Okay, the CG changed. It's her lying on his chest again. Pah, that was good. You're so greedy, Saya, I say, smiling wryly as I look at Yo, who's lying limply on the floor. You always keep it all for yourself. Of course, I won't forgive you if you give it to any other woman. After baring her teeth at me grumpily, she burrows her face into my stomach. I'm serious, okay? It's adorable how Saya goes from angry to pleading like this. That must have been her saying, I'm serious, then okay, whatever. I find myself reaching down to muss up her hair. It says muss, specifically, not mess, muss. I don't know if that's a typo or if muss is a word. Don't worry, I won't. Now then, we'd better get ready. Okay. Okay. We can travel light and take the Suzumi family car. Can you? Which of you can drive? How are you able to drive fucking flesh cars? Sir? I thought you brought Koji with you because you can't pilot cars and also because it was convenient to kill him. Like, can Saya drive, for fuck's sake? I'd better withdraw everything that's left in my bank account. How? And carry it as cash. Is it not flesh? I'll also need a weapon, something more reliable than a butcher's knife. What do you use as a weapon? Your painted table? Do you just paint everything that you use? Like, Koji will most likely follow. He thinks that Yo can still be saved. However, I'm not abandoning this house just to run away. As long as Koji knows our location, we're stuck on the defensive. Leaving gives me the chance to regain the initiative and deal with him at a place of my choosing. The next time we meet, I'll kill him with my own 2 hands. I'll make sure to wring every last drop of life out of his body. A shiver runs through me as I anticipate the battle ahead, and my bloodlust burns like orgasmic fire. Orgasmic fire, in particular. Okay, I think I'm gonna end things here for now. It's a little short of an episode, but yeah, I'm gonna end things here. Because I feel like this is a good stopping point. I would imagine that I'm pretty close to the end. I mean, there was that choice earlier on, so I guess there's a second ending. I don't know. It's probably about as long as this, though. So, yeah. I mean, if it's not, then that's cool. If it's even longer, then that's also cool. I'll do it regardless, but yeah, either way. Actually, I feel like it would probably be shorter, right? Just being like, yeah, I want my reality back to normal, and Saya's like, okay. And then she's like, I'm a little funny beast thing. Haha, you're so cool, Saya. Ha ha ha. And then that's the end. I don't know. But yeah, that's going to be it for this episode, guys. If you liked it, then be sure to press the like button. And if you didn't like it, then fuck you too. Remember to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date on all my videos and stuff. And as always, my name is Godzi, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye! Yeah.